Ladies and gentlemen,
this is Gamertag Radio.
All right, welcome to a brand new episode of Gamertag Radio. This is your host, Danny Peña, and also Rihanna. But we also have another intro. Ree, go for it.
Hello out there, and welcome to the Danny
and Rihanna's show. This is Danny Peña, Rihanna's husband.
And this is Rihanna Manuel Peña, Danny's wife. Okay, so this may be an interesting intro for a lot of people who aren't aware, but this is our very first crossover episode of Gamertag Radio and the Danny and Rihanna show.
Yes.
Danny, tell the good people why we're doing this today.
All right, so over a month ago, I got an opportunity to go to Amazon to check out one of the episodes from the new series called Secret Level. But a few weeks later after that, Amazon Studios sent us the whole season of the series Secret Level. So thanks to the Prime Video team for giving this opportunity. I know it was a very small group of people that got this opportunity. I think now a lot more people got access to it. But we've been having this now for a while, for weeks. So we've been watching it here and there, and it's all 15 episodes that we got the chance to check out. And we're going to talk about our thoughts, or this is like the official review, and we'll go from there. It's going to be exciting episode. And it's cool to do this crossover, with Gamertag Radio. There's a lot of Gamertag Radio listeners that have never had the opportunity to listen to our show, the Danny and Rihanna show. What do you think about that, Rihanna?
I think that's pretty cool, actually. I know there's also a lot of Danny and Rihanna show listeners who didn't know that you had your own show, Danny. And it's just so fun after doing it, honestly, a game-changing podcast, no pun intended, for almost 20 years, that you can still find new listeners and add to the amazing community that is Gamertag Radio. So I think it's fantastic. And, we just keep finding more and more cool people to hang out with. And I love that for us.
All right, so this is more for the Gamertag Radio listeners, and also new ones. All right, so you can find us on gamertagradio.com, listen to our past content, or you can find us on every podcast app out there. All you have to do is just search for Gamertag Radio or the Danny and Rihanna show. Subscribe to let people know about our shows, and share it with your friends and family, and also let us know your thoughts. If you're listening to it on Spotify, you can go under the comment section below of this episode. You can post your comment there, or you find it on YouTube, or we're everywhere.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com, or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
Please let us know your thoughts about this, because I know a lot of people are very curious and excited about the Secret Level series. I think we should go from there, right?
Yeah, so let's get into our thoughts about these episodes, and maybe a little bit later we can talk about our thoughts on adaptations overall, because we've had that conversation on the Dan and Rihanna show. But
this is not spoilers,
not spoilery, but it's worth talking about again after seeing these Secret Level episodes, because they are going in a very interesting direction. So let's start off with just like a couple of our favorites. How about that? So
sure.
I'll go first. This isn't my number one favorite, but it's up there. I was very excited by and surprised by how much I liked Crossfire.
Yeah.
I will say, again, it's going to be really hard. No spoilers. But what's really interesting is they can take a shooter, right? A shooter game, and one that maybe didn't resonate with a ton of people on a narrative level, and create a compelling story with very real characters that honestly felt like I was watching a movie. It felt like I was watching like a Mission Impossible episode, or a Mission Impossible sequel or something. Like, there are so many gray areas. There's this running line that really kind of hit home, that almost every character started repeating, and it became like kind of this universal truth. It's like you're not really sure who you should be cheering for, who you should be rooting against, and it was really good back and forth, and cinematically quite compelling. This is an Unreal, is that right, Danny?
Which one are you talking about?
Crossfire.
No, Crossfire is a different game. It's a shooter.
No, the engine that they made this in.
The engine,
Sorry.
I think it is. I'm not sure. I think it is Unreal. I'm not quite percent sure.
No, I'm sorry. This is all made by Blur. This is all Blur Studio.
Yeah. So they have their own engine?
They
I mean,
might
I don't
have
know.
one. You know what? We should figure it out, and at the end of the episode, we can come back and correct ourselves.
Sure. Okay.
Regardless, the level of detail and honestly the level of fidelity and true to life animation is one of the best I've seen, period. And games and movies and anything. And the acting was really, really good. And the writing so successful. And I just wasn't expecting for Crossfire to be up there in like my top 5, maybe top 3. So I just wanted to give my first shout out to Crossfire. It was a really great episode. And again, it's hard to talk about these without giving spoilers. They're very short. You know, they're all under 20 minutes.
Like 15 minutes or so?
Yeah, there's a lot you can give away with just quoting one line. So I won't do that to everybody. I'll give you the time to have your own experience with it. But really like that one. How about you, Deanie?
Yeah, you know why you threw me off? Because I was thinking about this episode, and then you mentioned Unreal. I'm like, wait, my turn? I wasn't sure. So what I'm gonna talk about is Unreal Tournament. That's another episode.
Favorite, yeah.
Here's the thing. I love that this series picks a game and has a totally different story. Kind of relates to the game, but not really. Like, it probably will get you even more curious about the game because of the series you get to see. So, like, for example, I'm just gonna mention this very quick. I've never played the New World game, right? So when I got to watch it for the first time,
That's a different episode.
A different episode. But when I watched New World, I was like, wow, I want to play this game. So I think watching all these games, all these series, all this episode, is gonna get you very curious about each of these games, and maybe will get you to try it out. But it was really, really good. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because Unreal, I remember playing Unreal years back. Unreal Tournament. There is no story. It's just tournament, shooting, and that's it. But
in that game, you can play different classes, right? Like different types of
characters,
or whatever. I haven't played, so I'm
yeah. But I remember playing this for the first time. Wasn't on PC, and then I remember playing it a lot on the Sega Dreamcast. Like, this is a long, long time ago, So I know they had it also on Xbox and the other consoles, but those are the first time. And I don't remember seeing any story or anything like that. It was just a tournament, just shoot and try to survive and win, But I love the story of this one. I'm like, man, it makes sense. The way how it starts and the way how it ends, it blends very, very well with what I think it is now, the actual story of the game. You'll see. You got to play it and watch this, and you're gonna understand what I'm talking about. So that's another one. It's not my number one, but it's in my top 3.
Yeah, it's definitely up there for me as well. I really like how they set up, like they focus in on one character, and they, have an antagonist, and they really focus on, how that could play out with this sort of, team-based shooter in the background, but you're following a really specific story and, really getting intimately like on their side. Like you really start to see like, oh wow, there's so much heart here. And you're like, wait, this is literally just a team shooter. Why am I so invested in, making sure that these characters get what they want? Like it's so effective. I really like that one too. And the world building was such a fun surprise. Like, I did not expect that at all.
Yeah. So what was your number 2?
These aren't in order.
No, it's not in order, but just like top.
But the next one that I want to talk about, it's just really surprised me. I loved watching the Armored Core episode.
That's the one with Keanu?
With Keanu, but I hated how it ended.
Okay.
Like, I was just so, like, it's Keanu, right? It's Keanu. It looks like Keanu, sounds like Keanu. And he's acting in a very different character from his real personality, which Danny, as somebody who's talked to him, in an interview. But the character was immediately compelling because A, it's Keanu, but B, you meet him at a point where he's maybe not in the best place, and you go on this obviously short, but you go on this very intense journey with him. And the stakes are very high. You do feel like at any point, like, oh no, this could be over. And then once you get to his destination and find that maybe what he needed all along is actually out there, it just rug pulls you. And I'm like, oh God, like it's just, I'm trying to talk about it as generally as possible without ruining it for people. But like, when I tell you this is a roller coaster episode, it is action packed. The action's really great. It was easy to follow, and like seeing giant mechs. If you know the Armored Core game, you know they're playing with giant mechs. Seeing giant mechs shoot at each other and tear each other apart could be really confusing. Like I get lost watching the Transformers movies, but this was actually pretty easy to follow, and it was really fun. It was really exciting. It definitely took a turn that I was not expecting, and I can't wait to hear what other people think about it because this one has been on my mind, I would say maybe the most out of all of them, except for one, which is my last one I'll talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just can't wait for the world to get their hands on it.
Yeah, it's really good, really good. Yeah, for some reason, when I watch Armored Core, it also reminds me a little bit of Cyberpunk, because, he's in it too. The only
and of
difference
course, you're going to think of The Matrix because it's Keanu, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. But I mean,
Machine.
watching it, then you're gonna notice. Wait a minute, Keanu has long hair, Cyberpunk, and this one he has short hair. So it's
it was Keanu heavy at the front, but it didn't take me out of the story. If that makes sense.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree. Now, this one I really enjoyed it. I was This is one of the episodes where I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see this one. I don't know how they're gonna do it. And it was The Outer Worlds. I really like
you
that
love
episode.
that game.
I love like, man, I played that game like I think 4 times, multiple times on console and also on the Switch, even though it was like very, very slow. But I love that game. Shout out to Obsidian. But yeah, I really enjoy the story of The Outer Worlds. And it felt like I was also still part of that world, of that universe of The Outer Worlds.
They really nailed the tragedy, but also the humor that comes with a lot of Outer Worlds situations and characters where they're like, oh wow, this is really terrible, what's happening to you, but they're still cracking jokes.
God, and I'm not gonna say anything, but you're gonna feel bad for these characters, man. But it's good. Like it's again, I gotta give a huge shout out to Blur. I just love that, as a fan of The Outer Worlds, and you will see Easter eggs here and there that relates to the game. You're like, oh, but I just like there is a totally different new story that I'm like, oh man, it is part of the universe, and when you watch it, it feels like still part of the game, So what of any of these episodes still feels like the game, So shout out to them, amazing job. I think this is one of my favorite episodes from the series, The Outer Worlds, and I can't wait to hear everybody's thoughts about it. Again, we're trying our best not to like spoil.
It's just really hard.
The story. It's really hard to do, but I think that's the only thing I will say is just that, like, I really enjoyed it. Really good. Great thing. And I love the animation. This one. Here's the one thing I forgot to mention, Reed. Because Blur is really known to have like a certain way of like how their animation is, like the look and everything. But I also love that depending of the game, not all of it, because sometimes it will be like a Blur style, but some of these episodes has the look and feel as the game. So like, for example,
same art style.
Yeah. So for example, The Outer Worlds, it felt like, okay, this is The Outer Worlds, You mentioned Crossfire, heavy graphics, looks real. It was the same exact thing, So I felt also the same with Unreal. It's a game that's very dark, cave, futuristic, and they did an amazing job putting that into each episode of the series.
Yeah. So can I talk about this next one, because it actually kind of takes a hard left turn from what you just said?
Yes, that's why I had to bring that up, because just in case,
So this next one, if you've played this game or anything in this IP, it is iconic visually. You know exactly what it is going to be. You know the gameplay, you know the sounds. You probably remember pressing the buttons. And I'm talking about Pac-Man. Now, you know Pac-Man, right? The big yellow face. We've seen it done in this Pixels movies. We've seen it done in Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, it's literally crossed over to the point that, like, Pac-Man's up there with, like, Sonic and Mario for iconic video game characters, right? You will not recognize this Pac-Man. In this episode, if it didn't have the title Pac-Man in front of it, until you roll credits, you would have no idea what game you're watching. And
that's true.
Love that. I love that. I love that they went so outside the box with this one. And when I tell you, I have never thought of Pac-Man as horror or scary until now. This was the scariest thing in this whole show. It was the scariest episode, hands down for me. Like,
it's very different. Very different.
It is so different. And what they've done with this story, I gotta say, like, once you watch it again and look for all of the exposition and the environmental storytelling and all of the clues. Like this episode deserves a new Rockstar's breakdown. It's just there's just
a lot.
So much to unpack here. And Pac-Man never really had lore, right? Maybe people have built stories around it, kind of, but you got Pac-Man, you got Miss Pac-Man, you got little pellets, you got the ghosts. Like, what else is there?
Yeah. I mean, there was like I remember Saturday morning cartoons back in the 80s. They had like a Pac-Man series, but it was like very family friendly. And this one is like,
it's not like, oh, this is
mature.
Pac-Man.
Like, this is not.
Okay, I will say, first off, there is horror. It is horror, and it is palatable because obviously I was able to watch it, and I'm a big baby. But it was unsettling AF. Like, it really shook me up. And the message of it was just like, oh my God, like we're all these hamsters on this wheel. Like, what is life? Like, it had me questioning some big life conundrums. And I just did not expect Pac-Man to be the
out of all, you know what's crazy?
All of these to do that.
You know what's crazy, Reed? Like, I remember when we were done with the episode, we looked at each other like,
literally like what? Speechless. Like,
I was not expecting this. Yeah.
So good, so creepy. The final like visual reveal was like, whoo, like jump scare, like unsettling. I gotta say, I'm probably hyping this up quite a bit. Watch it. Just watch it and then watch it again, and give a shout out to Blur and Bandai Namco for letting them go so far with this concept, because it is such a departure from what you think of when you look at Pac-Man, the video game, and any other representation of it in media. It is just hardcore art. It's just art. It really is. And I can't stop thinking about it. I cannot
It's so good, yo.
It's so good.
So good. I also want to mention that my favorite out of all of these two, because I love Pac-Man. Pac-Man was like,
Pac-Man was definitely the furthest away from the game. And I think this next one you're going to talk about is the closest to the game.
The closest to the game, yeah.
And both really successful in the way that they did each.
And that's Sifu. I just love.
Absolutely.
And it looks exactly like the game. Like that animation, beautiful music, great combat. You get to see the character exactly like in the game, getting older and older. But I just love the message of this episode. Was really, really cool. Really, really cool. And how it ended, I was like, man, that's Sifu. That's how I felt after watching it, So, and you're right. This is 100% like the game. 100% like Pac-Man.
Inside Sifu.
Pac-Man was an episode like that will make you think like, wait, what? Like, it was like that. And Sifu was like, that's Sifu. You're right.
It's the same mechanics, same medallion, same everything, same hair.
Mm-hmm.
Sifu. And in a great way. And they really put you in the shoes of that lead character and how it would feel to be facing these enemies over and over again, and to try new angles, new approaches, and have this new body every time you face a new set of challenges. And I think it's such a great adaptation.
100%.
Really satisfying at the end. Like, there was a very good at the end.
I can't wait for people to watch this.
Experience playing Sifu, which is
I can't wait for people to watch this, Reed. Like, I can't wait for people to watch the series. Now, here's one that I felt bad, but I enjoyed that episode, and that was Concord. And I even was telling you, I was like, it's messed up. Like, I'm really enjoying this episode, but I'm also thinking about the people that worked on the game, the studio. Like, I'm still in my mind, get the studio getting shut down. The game was not a success. Like, it was.
And they had a lot of work put into building this world, and you can see it. You can see it in this adaptation. You could see it in the game, right? Like, they really went for it to try to build out this whole universe. And the story has been compared to other properties out there, and maybe the Marvel Disney universe, which fair comparison. And fair comparison for this too, it feels like something we've seen before, but they did it really well, and I enjoyed it. And again, hearts go out to the team who put all this out into the world. Like, we can see the love, and it was a good adaptation.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention, by the time of this recording, we're still missing 3 episodes that hasn't been sent, but it looks like we just received it a couple days ago. We just haven't had the time to watch it yet, but we're planning to watch it because we're going to talk about it also on social and everything. Yeah. And that's Mega Man, which that was
one of your faves that you were excited about.
I'm very excited to watch that, and also it was Pac-Man. And another one that it's also we still haven't watched is Honor of Kings, and I never played the game, but I'm curious about it. And the third one, which this one is going to be a very interesting one to see how they're going to do it, and that's PlayStation. This is all PlayStation IPs, multiple games, multiple characters in one episode. Let's see how that's going to work out.
Yeah, maybe we'll do another recap episode once we can do like a spoiler cast and talk about those three.
Sure. Ree, was there anything that also you want to talk about very quickly? Because I know I mentioned about Concord that it was heartbreaking watching the episode because I'm like, man, like I enjoyed the game. I get why it wasn't a success, but the story was very interesting. Like I really liked it. Personally, I like this episode, but was there any other episode that stood out to you too? That's not in your top 3, but it still was good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list here. New World Eternum was fun. It was a fun episode, and it did hit me a little in the uncanny valley on this one with Arnold Schwarzenegger being the lead character. Unlike the Keanu in Armored Core, which melted away and blended into the character after the first couple minutes, it was just Arnold the whole time for me in New World, which took me out of it a bit. And I think that's kind of why it didn't hit the top 5 for me. But honestly, I'm going to have to say Warhammer 40K was just so interesting. Like, I didn't follow it as clearly narratively. Like, it felt like
there was not much to say.
The story of it was much lighter, and it was much more vibes than story. But the vibes were really well done, and it did feel like I was watching people play through the levels of a video game. So I'll give it that. Another one that was really good, but again, didn't do anything I haven't seen before, was Dungeons and Dragons. It was really beautiful. Had a lot of personality. I could definitely, see the dice rolls behind the different actions that you saw the characters going through. Very similar to the live action movie that we had earlier this year, which I loved, and we have on Blu-ray, and I watch all the time. But yeah, it felt like another Dungeons and Dragons thing, which is awesome, but didn't stick in my mind the way Pac-Man or Crossfire or even Unreal Tournament did. So yeah, they were all really good. Like I want to say, like the fidelity, the faith paid to each of the original games that inspired it were all very well done. It felt like I was watching a movie that is inspired by these games. And they did it faithfully, and they did it well. And the production quality is astounding on each of these. But just some of them stuck with me a little more than others, that's all.
What I know people are going to say, there got to be one that you didn't like. Was there one that you didn't like? Was there one?
I don't want to yuck anything, because it might be a yum to someone else.
Okay.
Honestly, I just mentioned it, but Warhammer just wasn't as exciting for me, just because it was just a lot of fighting. It was just a lot of fights.
Warhammer was okay for me. It was okay.
It was okay. Yeah. It was, and not okay in a bad way. It was just these other ones were just so mind blowing and did so many interesting things that I wasn't expecting, that doing a great, competent job just doesn't fly as high as the other ones. So the bar is set really high for all of these, and I think they all cleared it, honestly.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's once you see one episode you like, oh, how the other one's gonna top this one, and that's the reason you're gonna compare. But there's gonna be some episodes that we didn't like that other people will like,
For
so
sure.
that's happened too. But here's one I'll mention, and you brought it up, Dungeons and Dragons was it was beautiful, it
gorgeous.
Looked really, really good. Animation was amazing. I was just okay, it was just an okay story. Okay, there is nothing new. When I get to see Sifu, The Outer Worlds, Pac-Man, Unreal Tournament, New World.
I can't say enough things about Pac-Man, y'all.
Yeah, it was different. It was different. It was
so different.
In that universe, but it was still something a little bit different. With Dungeons and Dragons, it was just kind of the same. I don't know. It was just whatever, So.
It was something we've seen before, but just is beautifully done. The best that I've seen it done.
Graphically amazing.
But something that I would love to talk about, because I know we're going a little long on this one for the Dan Ariana show runtime at least, is how this hits in a year and in a time when we have wildly great adaptations from video games hitting our big and small screens, right? Like we had Fallout, we've had Arcane, we've got. I'm going to put the Mario movie up there and Sonic. Those are really great, and there's so many adaptations that are really stepping up and finally becoming great films and great television shows. Well, yeah, The Last of Us, hello. And this is very different from all of those, right? It is an anthology series, right? There's, if you think of like, remember the Animatrix or Love, Death, and Robots, like this is going to be really short, quick stories. They're not connected, or at least we don't think they are. And they tell very specific narratives, and they're not trying to span an entire game's worth of story, right? And so they have the opportunity, which these other stories don't have the same opportunity. These films or these television shows, they have the opportunity to tell you something that completely disconnected from the characters you know, from the gameplay that you know, from the world you know. And I think, Danny, it's so interesting to see the choices that they all made because they're so different. Like we said, Pac-Man, departure. Sifu, faithful adaptation. Like Concord, pretty much within that same world. But then you have Unreal Tournament, origin story, right? Like there's so many in Warhammer, like tiny microcosm, and maybe even a character you won't even know about if you've never played these games or you would never meet them, right? Like it's just so interesting how they've all made such different choices of how to tell their stories, and they all work, you know?
Yeah, I think and I mentioned this earlier too, like I'm glad that this was made, because there's going to be people that they probably heard of Pac-Man back in the 80s, but they've never heard of Unreal, New World, all these other games that are in this series. Mm-hmm. But I think is it going to get people interested into playing these games because
there's
of
at least
series.
3 games that I want to play now because of watching this series.
Yeah, same here. Mm-hmm. Like I'm curious to play New World. I never played Armored Core, but it got me curious to see, like, so at least I could compare, you know.
I want to go back and play Unreal Tournament.
Yeah. And Crossfire, I never really played Crossfire.
Now I'm like, do I want to play Crossfire? Yeah. Like, it's really effective. And I love seeing more medium and more styles of storytelling getting support and bringing more attention to video games, because these worlds that are created for us to play in are so vast. And even something that we think of as simple or as small as Pac-Man can have such an impact when in the hands of the right storytellers. And it just leads us to a world where there is more respect paid to this industry, where there's more respect paid to the people who make these experiences, and where we can hopefully eventually get to a place where the people who create these worlds have a great quality of life when they go to work and when they come home. I mean, that's the world that I would like to live in. And I love seeing art like this push that forward even more. And, you know, in a time and place where it's really hard for people to make a living creating. And they deserve to be able to do that, because these things are emotional, they're empathetic, they help connect us to other people. And now, you know, maybe we're not putting our hands on a controller and experiencing it with other folks, but we're watching it and learning these new sides to things that we thought we understood before. And it gives us more conversation, it brings us closer. And that's ultimately what I love about games, is that they can really connect you to communities and other people and help you talk about and think about and learn about experiences you never would have had otherwise. And this series, man, it is good. Definitely doing that for me. Yeah, for sure.
And I think I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but you know, when I went to see New World for the first time, it was a very small group of people. There was maybe like less than 10 media folks that got invited to check this out. And we also sat down with one of the creators of New World, the actual game from the studio, but also we have the top head guys from Blur that worked on this. And we were just talking, like, you know, we were casually talking about the other games. They couldn't say much because they really wanted to focus on New World. But it is, you know how difficult it is to get all these type of games from different studios, that for them to get their approval from these studios to get like the okay, work on the series and going back and forth with all these studios to see their thoughts until they get it right. It is difficult, man. I got to give it props to Blur because I know that was not this was a huge challenge for them. And the team brought that up. But this was my prediction was going to happen, Ree. The series is going to get it's going to be a huge success. And then we're going to get to see a lot of other studios like, all right, we want for you to work on our game. Yeah. From like indie games, from big publishers. There's going to be all types of, like, look, Sifu is a smaller studio compared to a game like the Outer Worlds or whatever.
Or Mossmouth, who made Spelunky.
Spelunky, yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
so
these aren't new games either. I want to say that too. Like there's some old ones on this list.
Some for a lot of people.
What I'm saying is this list spans most of the gaming history, if you take it all the way back to Unreal and games like Unreal and Pac-Man, right?
And Mega Man.
And so it doesn't have to be the new hotness. It doesn't have to be this big AAA. It doesn't even have to be a game that people have heard of to be interesting, to have stories that are worth our time. And I just love the light that this series is shining on all these really interesting games that maybe we didn't catch the first time around, or we thought it wasn't for us, but like it's definitely got me rethinking a couple. And I think that's the beauty of it, right? Like it's really effective in a lot of ways. And shout out to the team. Shout out to Tim Miller.
Yeah.
For creating this. Like, thank you.
He was one of the people that I met at the event, Tim Miller.
Thank you.
He's really cool.
You know, of course, all of the people involved, obviously, it takes a village. Yeah, I'm just glad Secret Level exists. Thank you again to Amazon for giving us this advanced access, because it has reignited my love of what we do in a way that I really needed this year. And
sure.
I appreciate that.
Now, if you have to pick one game that you will love to see part of the Secret Levels series in the future, which one will be your pick for that game to be part of? Because I have one, but
this is so hard because like I never would have pegged my favorites from this season, I'll call it, because I did not expect for Pac-Man to be number one for me, or the reasons why. So in the hands of the right creator, in the hands of the right visionary, you know, any of these stories could come from almost anywhere. But oh God, you go first and let me think a little bit while you talk.
All right, so
that's a hard question.
So for me, I'm a huge Sega guy.
Yeah.
So there's two games, but let me go with the first one. This will be a very interesting one if they could pull this off. Jet Set Radio.
Cute, yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah,
graffiti.
Could be pretty interesting. Could be grimy or like underground.
Yeah, put some like graffiti in there. Have some like amazing soundtrack in that episode. You know, have the characters. You know, I think that would be really, really cool to work on something on that. Even if it's like a side story, it doesn't have to relate to like the original games. But that one will be one. The other one, because I also again huge fan of Sega, and I would love to see a game like Streets of Rage that has also an amazing soundtrack for that to be part of the series. I think that would be really cool. Because look, people are gonna think Sonic, and I'm like, no, I want
some of
games,
the off-beaten path.
Yeah, like stuff that nobody's even thinking about, like Ultra Beast, House of the Dead, like, you know, stuff like that where nobody's thinking about it, and they're like, wait, that's part of Secret Level? Because sometimes it feels like some of these episodes nobody was expecting for this to be an episodic show, animation or whatever. You know, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
100%.
That's why I picked those games.
Okay, if I had to pick two, the first one is Forza.
Okay.
And I think there could be a really cool like high stakes, like Baby Driver Days of Thunder vibe, like if they did something with a racing game and you know, again, took it out of what we expect to see, which is, you know, very, you know, third person, hands off, and gave us some more personal connection to really driving these amazing cars. And the other one, and this is in a vein of Pac-Man, where like I just want to see where somebody's crazy, you know, Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass kind of brain could go. I'd love to see Tetris.
I
would love to see somebody do some crazy off the wall. I would never have thought of that shit with Tetris.
That is a good really one. Cool. Yeah, that would be a good one. Because look, Pac-Man, like people are like, how are they gonna come with a story with Pac-Man? And look,
I can't stop thinking about it. I need you all to go watch Pac-Man, please.
Yeah,
And save it for the end though, because like it's definitely one that's gonna it is gonna tie your brain up for at least an hour.
Yeah.
After you finish watching it, you'll be like, wait a minute, what?
Tetris will be good.
Tetris would be really cool.
I wonder what type of story they could come up with Tetris.
I mean, who knows? Like, we never would have guessed this is what we would have got with.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Prime Video, the whole Amazon Studio team. Shout out to Tim Miller, the Blur team. It was really cool meeting them.
I want to know what the engine is. Hold on, before we end.
Yeah, go for it. While I'm thanking everybody, you could search on that. Cool. I'll do that. Yeah. All right. So thanks to them. This was a very great experience watching this. I can't wait for the masses to watch this once it comes out on Prime Video. And that's going to be on December 12th, I believe. Is it December 12th? Or is it or is it December 11th? Let me see what's the actual release date. Let me see release date. Okay. December 10th. There you go. So it's like 2 days before the Game Awards. 2 days before the Game Awards. Yeah, that's going to be really cool. Yeah, make sure to check it out. 15 episodes, directed by Tim Miller. Again, watch Pac-Man, Warhammer 40,000. And you can watch this on Prime Video. So, and I know there's a couple people that you're probably wondering who is going to be in there. The cast, there's name a few: Keanu Reeves, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Kevin Hart is in there too, and yeah, it's a lot of other people too, man. A lot of other people.
So I did confirm it is Unreal.
Oh, it is Unreal. Okay, yeah, all right,
Unreal
cool,
Engine.
Awesome. Anything else?
Which makes sense because Unreal Tournament.
Anything else?
More adaptations, more cool, crazy, offbeat, out there stories that happen to be based in video game worlds. Like there's a reason why comics resonate so much with people. There's a reason why anime resonates so much with people. There's a reason why video games resonate so much with people, and it's because they tell stories, right? They tell stories that help us access explanations and explorations of our human emotions. And I love seeing art made about video games because video games are art to me, and I just want more. I want more. I hope they do more. Please do more, Tim.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Come on, Amazon, approve it. Give it a green light.
I will give you all the monies.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching Gamertag Radio and also the Danny Rihanna Show. This is the first and not the only crossover episode. We're going to have more in the future to promote each other's shows and everything like that. So this was a lot of fun, right, V? Doing this?
It's always fun talking to you.
Well, it's always.
Yeah.
I'm always having fun talking to you too. So, all right, guys. Until next time, we're out. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Gamertag Radio. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.